Hello and welcome to today's video. I think this one's going to be short and sweet, but we're going to see how that goes. This is like a very important lesson that I think I really learned this afternoon, and I wanted to share it because I feel like I like these past couple of weeks, I kept getting this repeated message of like you're pushing and you're forcing, but I couldn't tell like how I was doing that. And I knew like the message wasn't wrong, but I couldn't feel the difference between, when I was pushing and forcing and like what it's supposed to be like. So, today I got home from like the church luncheon. I had a church luncheon today. Today is Sunday, the 21st. The 21st. And I took a nap. I relaxed for a little bit because there were a lot of people there and they were really, really loud. So I was decompressing for a while. I took a short nap, and then when I started getting hungry, I didn't feel like cooking. And then I remembered I had like a T-Mobile Tuesday offer for like a free burger. So I'm like, that sounds pretty good. That like I will go out for. So I prepped my order on one of my phones because I took two phones with me. I had already used one offer on mine earlier this week. And when I'm getting closer and closer to Wendy's, the burger place, I noticed that the phone logged me out. And I'm like, well, that's not great. Because I always have a hard time remembering what email I use. But for the most part, I use Facebook because it's just easier. You just click the button and it logs you in. And it just remembers, and then I don't have to think about like which of the 20,000 emails that I have that I used. So I park and I'm trying to get back into the app and it won't let me in. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get frustrated. I go to the app store and see maybe it needs an update, and that's why it logged me out. It wasn't letting me back in. I kept tapping the button, and every time I tapped the button and it wouldn't let me in, I kept getting more and more frustrated. So I look at my phone and I'm like, that one logged me out as well, and it wasn't letting me in. So I'm like, okay, what are my options? Like, I either keep trying, or I go home without a burger, or I pay full price. Like, what do I want to do? And by now, like, I'm getting pretty pissed off, and I'm like, God, I am not going home without my burger. This is my dinner, so I don't care what you do, but I am not going home without my burger. So I keep on trying to log in to the phone, and I keep on tapping like the screen, and then it's like almost all of a sudden I heard the words pushing and forcing. Now, a little bit prior to this, I kind of felt like there was something else going on, because I want to say I'm pretty good. Like, my channel of awareness tends to be quite potent, quite strong. So when I was seeing that it wasn't letting me in, I'm like, is this trying to protect me? Am I not supposed to have a burger today? Is it going to give me like food poisoning? And that's why, the universe logged me out so that I wouldn't get a burger here. And I intentionally went to the specific place because the one closer to home, they're usually out of stuff. Like the last time I ordered a Dave's single there, they gave us, I ordered like one for my brother, one for myself, and they gave us patties, like junior bacon cheeseburger patties. They were itty bitty. So that place is usually always out of ingredients, or the food is cold. The team that works that night isn't super great. So I went to the one that was a little bit further away. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, what's going on here? Why did it log me out? Why is it taking me so long to get back in? It doesn't make sense unless I'm not supposed to eat here. But like, I really want my burger. Like, I don't want to cook right now. It's really cold at home. Like, we don't have heating. That's something else that needs to be replaced. So right now, when the temperatures, like these past 2 days, the temperatures have really dropped, and inside the house, it's literally been like 43 degrees. Like, it's so cold. So, and like, I really would like to be able to get my burger. So after I heard those words, pushing and forcing, I'm like, okay, let me feel into that. So this, like, once I got that message, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a few breaths and ground myself, and I'm going to slow down, and I'm going to try again. And this time I'm going to tap the button without pushing and without forcing. I'm going to tap it gently, not like, trying to dig my finger through the screen. I'm going to tap it gently. Like, I know it's going to let me in, and I don't have to get upset. I don't have to get angry. I don't have to lose my patience, which is another big one for me. Which now I can see a lot more clearly how that's related to pushing and forcing. Sometimes it's not necessarily like the pushing and the forcing, it's that there's impatience underneath that. So I'm like, okay, how would I click on this button to log in if I weren't pushing and forcing? And like the word gentle came to mind. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this gently, and I'm going to do it slowly. And it kind of felt like that shift, like that difference in my voice now, where it's like a lot softer. It's like, of course it's going to let me in. I don't have to try so hard. So I did that, and it let me in like very, very quickly compared to like, how long it took or how long it was taking to get in. So I'm like, okay, God, I think I'm starting to understand what you've been trying to tell me. And I am thankful for this lesson, because I wasn't able to really feel the difference, because like the difference of when I'm pushing and forcing and when I'm just like being. That's kind of like what I feel like really clicked in today. There's pushing and forcing, but if you don't need to do that, then what does it look like? What does it feel like? And it just feels like being. And after that experience with like trying to log into Facebook and pushing the button like a frantic person, I also got this visual of like opening a door. And I don't know if you've ever like, especially at stores, there's sometimes like the doors will tell you like whether to push or pull. Sometimes they don't say that, but sometimes like even though it does say on the door to push or pull, sometimes people do the opposite, right? So they can't get in. So I kind of got that visual of like, what does it feel like to open a door, but you're pushing and you're forcing? Even if you're opening the door in the correct way, whether it's pushing or pulling, but you can push a door with force and you can pull a door with force. But what would it feel like? What does it feel like when you open a door without pushing or forcing? I'm like, okay, that's something that I can literally like practice feeling. Like whenever I open a door, whether it's the front door or the car door, or there's so many doors that you could potentially interact with in a day. And like, okay, I that's something I can continue to feel into, because I think I've been pushing and forcing for so long that that's kind of like become normal, and I don't always feel the difference. And then the other visual that dropped in was like being in a crowd and trying to get to like from point A from point B, but pushing through the crowd, like pushing and forcing your way through. And then I'm like, okay, what would it be like if I was walking through a crowd, but I'm not pushing and I'm not forcing, like I'm just walking at my pace, like whatever that feels like, whatever feels comfortable, but there's no pushing and there's no forcing, like nobody's getting hurt. I'm not getting, exhausted, because pushing and forcing takes more energy. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to understand this. And I think, this applies in so many different areas, because like as I'm going through RCP again as a level 3 intern, I have been noticing that like the volunteers that I have been assigned, they haven't gotten back to me to book their practice sessions. And I started feeling into like, am I pushing and forcing? Like, is that energy there, even though like the way it works is you ask one of the coordinators for a volunteer, and then they email you 1 or 2 volunteers at a time. But I don't email the volunteer unless they reply to the email saying that they would like a practice session. So in that sense, it's not like I'm hounding people, hey, when you get a book, it's nothing like that. Like, I have been waiting, but while I'm waiting, if I really feel into it, like, I have been pushing and forcing, or it's like pressure. There's a bit of pressure of like, when are people going to book, or are people even going to book? And the other thing, because I was starting to see that like the volunteers haven't been replying yet, I started thinking of other ways that I could try to get my own practice clients. And I did kind of like write out this draft email or draft message like in my phone notes. But I held off from sending it because I'm like, let me pause a little bit and feel into this if I'm, being impatient, or, if there's something else here that I'm not seeing, because this not getting clients isn't new. And I've been exploring like the visibility thing and all that, and, as projectors waiting for an invitation and whatnot. So I think, at least for me, because, okay, although the strategy for projectors is to wait for an invitation, many times as a self-projected projector, I really do feel like that nudge to initiate, and initiate not from like a human design term, just from, the basic dictionary term of like taking inspired action. But sometimes, because, the mind can be the mind, it can be a little bit tricky to feel into when it's inspired action or when it's like the mind, telling me I should be doing something when that's not the way to go. So while I was waiting for the volunteers to get back to me, I started kind of like feeling into, is there like a bigger reason why they're not getting back to me? Is it that maybe like I could reach out and like, find volunteers a different way? And I thought of like reaching out to 2 people in particular who have a slightly bigger audience on Instagram that I have done practice sessions with a few months ago. I want to say maybe around the summer of last year. Just to ask if they know of anyone, or if they feel comfortable, doing a little shout out, like tapping into that little bit of that 4th line energy. But I held off from doing that, and part of me like still feels like the energy that I like as I was reading that message, when I after I wrote it down, it didn't feel pushy or forceful or anything like that. It just felt like, hey, just letting you know I'm doing my level 3 internship. I am looking for people to practice with. If you think of anybody and you feel comfortable recommending me, I would really appreciate it. And that's it. But I have it saved in my notes section, and I think right now what I feel more like doing is just holding off and practicing a little bit more of that not pushing and forcing energy, and being patient, because I feel like there's something else going on. I just haven't been made aware of it yet. But essentially, this was the main point of this video. I'm learning to create even greater awareness on the times where I push and I force, and feeling that difference of like, okay, it's kind of like this very soft, this very gentle energy. Like another visual I'm getting right now is like if I were walking, if I were to like each step that I took, if it were like forceful or pushy, it'd be kind of like stomping as I walk, stomping my feet, as opposed to just gently taking one step at a time without really feeling like that clash between my foot, or as my foot hits the ground. So this is something that I am going to continue to practice and to contemplate, because I think this is a real big one for me. I know my Ginie profile, one of the spheres does have the shadow of impatience, and I feel like that one still gets me. It still gets me, and I know it gets me. But okay, wait. Let me add this piece into, because this is something that actually dropped in before I went out to get the burger. I was thinking about how, like, as a projector, there's our energy can really like focus in on things. And when this dropped in, I started thinking about like how easy it is for me to focus like on all the things that aren't going as well or aren't super ideal, primarily like the money thing, the client thing, work, the house, the repairs, a lot of stuff. There's like a lot of stuff. And I did notice like a few weeks ago, when I intentionally took my attention off the money not flowing in like I wanted it to, my sales did really good. Like for almost a whole month, they were quite steady and consistent. It was when like I focused in on the numbers more than I had been before, where I noticed that they started to fluctuate again. I went a couple of days without any sales, but then I didn't quite remember what it was that I had done. So before I headed out, like as I was getting ready to head out, I kind of had that thought drop in of like, as a projector, because of that laser focus energy that we can have, when we're working with another or when we're working on a task or something, it's like all our energy goes there. It can go there. So it's almost like we have to withdraw our attention from those things so that it's kind of like they can recalibrate on their own. And the phrase that I really do my best to remember a lot is, looking for the problem becomes a problem. When we start looking for a problem, well, that becomes a problem, because like there really isn't a problem, and it makes me think also of like this concept of flowing through life. Like things can stop flowing when we meddle in things that are fine. It's just maybe our perception's wrong, or there is a judgment or something like that. So I started contemplating of like all the areas in my life that I have been giving way too much attention to, in a way that, I'm going to use the word negative, but, like in a way that isn't ideal or isn't super productive, or, on things that cause me worry, because that's another big one for me. Like I have been creating more awareness on how worried I can get over like finances or work, or not having the motivation to do certain things, not having a lot of support to do those things, and all of that. So I'm like, okay, if I can withdraw my attention from all the things that I don't have, or that I perceive that I don't have, that in itself does a lot, because it keeps it from compounding. So if I withdraw my attention from that, what do I want to put my attention into then? And it could be, putting my attention on myself, on how do I feel? Do I feel well rested? Have I been eating well? Have I been hydrating well? Putting more my attention on like what I want more of, whether it's, more freedom. Freedom really is a big one for me, because like I've really been starting to realize just how much time freedom I have. I think it's kind of like, for me, a little bit of the opposite, finding fulfilling things to fill my time with. That's not the exact phrase I'd like to use, but finding ways of using my time, I guess, like help me tap into that success, or that, that success, I think, is a really big one for projectors, or recognition, like areas that where I feel recognized, because I that's another thing that I've really been starting to feel like when there is recognition, that just gives me a different type of energy that feels really, really good. So that's another big one that I have been going deeper into, withdrawing my attention from things that don't feel good or worry me. Yeah, I think that's how I want to say it. So, and it like when I do this, it's almost kind of like calling your energy back from, like, let's say with the sales numbers for me. I was starting to get more worried because my sales had been fluctuating and I had been doing really good. Like I said, pretty much for like 30 days straight, a sale every single day, and they were pretty solid numbers. And I'm like, okay, I know it has to do with attention. Last time I did this and I withdrew my attention, like things shifted very quickly. So what would it feel like to withdraw my attention from something that isn't ideal, or that I'm perceiving as like I would like something different? And it just almost feels like, let's say you're looking at a specific person in the room, and I think of like that projector gaze, which can be very intense, very penetrating. So let's say there's a person in the room or an object in the room that represents like work and not enough and scarcity. I have been looking at this item. It has been the object of my attention or object of my affection, even though, it's not what I want. That's where I've been focusing. That's what I've been looking at. So if I take my attention back, which feels like, I'm calling my energy back, and I visualize this like my eyes are looking like, let's say, a book. I'm just going to use that for simplicity. I'm still looking at the book, but I'm calling back my energy from the book, and then I very intentionally shift over to, like, let's say, looking at something else in the room, whether it's a plant, or abundance, or, something that feels better. And it's like all or most of my attention is now going towards that, to the point, or to the degree that I don't even, it's like the book isn't even in the room, or if it isn't, it's not calling my attention, not even from like a peripheral, is that how you say it, vision type of thing, like it's not even like a corner of your eye thing, I'm not even seeing it from the corner of my eye. It's like it doesn't exist. It's not getting my attention. So those are a few like practical things, or like visuals, that I wanted to share, and see if they work for y'all, because I really do feel like they've been working for me. It's just a matter of like practicing them more and more often, so that they become normal and I don't forget, because I think I had it and then I dropped it, and I did see the difference in the sales number, and it made me think of, I keep on focusing on like people aren't booking sessions, or people aren't replying to the practice sessions. That's where I'm focusing my projector energy. What would it be like if I took my energy away from that and then, focus on something else? It doesn't necessarily have to be like people are booking, but just by taking my energy back from that makes a huge, huge difference. Because I really do think like the projector energy can be very focused. And it makes a difference. So, okay, I'm going to leave it at that. It's under 25 minutes, so yay me. If you guys have found this information useful, if you had any aha moments, please feel free to leave a comment down below, or if you want to share, if you practice this, what the results you got, if you feel like there's someone that could benefit from this and you'd like to share this, I'd be very grateful and thankful. But yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.